Everything shifts the moment Tommy walks into that room because, for the first time in a long time, he's staring at someone who isn't scared of him. And that changes everything. Tommy steps into the shadows with a purpose that feels heavier than usual. He has fought his way through Chicago piece by piece, but today the air carries a different weight. It's not fear, not anger, something more like the quiet before a real storm. He knows that the city is reaching a boiling point, and every move now counts twice as much. Power is shifting under his feet, and even he can feel it. But the strange part is this: it's not the usual enemies that bother him. It's not the cops, not the rivals, not the streets. It's the name that's been slipping through every corner of the city's Che. No one talks loud about him, but everyone knows he's rising. A man who doesn't show his hand but somehow stays 2 steps ahead of people who kill for a living. Tommy hears the buzz and knows when something sounds too controlled, it means someone dangerous is behind it. As Tommy walks deeper into this new territory, he can sense the change. The streets here don't move for him. Nobody looks scared or impressed. It's like they're waiting to see what he does before they decide how to react. And for a man like Tommy, that's almost an insult. He built his name on presence alone, but now he feels eyes on him that aren't curious. They're calculating, and that's when it hits him. Che has already done the one thing most people fail at. He made Tommy slow down and think. Not out of fear, but out of respect for the unknown. Tommy hates the unknown. It's the only thing you can't punch your way through. He pauses for a moment, taking in the atmosphere. This part of the city runs smoother than the chaos he's used to. No loud shouting, no sloppy dealers, no corner boys arguing over a cut. Everything is too orderly, too controlled. And order this sharp doesn't happen by accident. It happens when someone smart is pulling strings from the dark, shaping things without being seen. Someone like Che. Tommy knows this, and it adds a tension under his skin. The kind that tells you the opponent you're about to face won't break easy. He has met men like this before, calm on the outside, dangerous underneath. Men who don't run toward fire. Men who make the fire come to them. Every instinct in Tommy's body is awake. Every step feels like a test, but he doesn't back down. He never does. Instead, he pushes forward, letting the pressure fuel him. Because deep down, he understands something important. When 2 rising forces finally meet, the whole city feels the impact. And today might be the first real spark between him and Che. A spark that could turn into a partnership, or burn the entire city down. Tommy straightens his shoulders, ready for whatever comes next. He's not here to make friends. He's not here to beg for alliances. He's here to see the man behind the whispers. The man bold enough to build an empire without showing his face. The man everyone is suddenly scared to cross. Tommy is ready. But the question hangs in the air like smoke. Is Che ready for Tommy? Tommy steps forward, and the silence around him thickens like a warning. The room isn't loud, it isn't crowded, yet it feels full, like every wall is holding a breath. This is the kind of silence that means someone powerful is near. Not loud powerful, not flashy powerful. The kind of power that moves without sound, without panic, without leaving fingerprints. And Tommy knows instantly, this is Che's world. There's no chaos here. No rushing, no shouting, no fear spilling out of corners. Everything looks clean, controlled, almost too perfect. And it bothers Tommy in a way he doesn't admit even to himself. He built his life on making noise, on making sure people know he's coming. But here, he feels like he's walking through someone else's rules, someone else's rhythm. Someone who has shaped this place with confidence instead of force. Tommy can sense eyes on him, but not the kind that tremble or second guess. These are eyes that measure him. Eyes that have seen enough violence to not be impressed by his reputation alone. And that's when he understands why Che is rising so fast. Everyone here moves with a certain calm, a certain trust, like they believe in the man leading them. Not out of fear, but loyalty. That's rare and dangerous. As Tommy reaches the center of the room, He hears the soft steps behind him. Not rushed, not hesitant, almost like the person walking has all the time in the world. Tommy turns slowly, and even though Che still hasn't spoken, the tension hits like a punch to the chest. Because this isn't a man trying to prove himself. This is a man who already knows who he is. Che stands there with a look that says he's seen the streets, survived them, and learned how to control them without ever needing to yell. He watches Tommy the way a strategist watches a battlefield, calm, patient, knowing exactly where every piece belongs. No fear, no fake confidence, just steady focus. For a split second, neither of them moves. They simply study each other, two different storms sizing up the horizon. Tommy reads people fast, it's one of his sharpest skills. But Che is harder to read than most. There's something behind his eyes that doesn't match the usual street energy. Something sharper, something colder. A mind always calculating, always planning 5 moves ahead. And Tommy knows this isn't a kid pretending to be a boss. This is someone who earned his place quietly, strategically, maybe even smarter than Tommy wants to admit. Someone who built influence not through fear, but through control. Someone who doesn't need to swing first to win. The air between them feels electric, but controlled, like both men understand the danger standing in front of them, yet neither is looking away. It's respect and threat woven together, and it holds the room hostage. Tommy feels the shift. Not weakness, but awareness. Che isn't impressed by him. Che isn't scared of him. And for Tommy, that's the real trigger. Because most people break under his stare. Most people shake at the sound of his name. But Che, he stands like a man who built his own kingdom and isn't about to bow for anyone, not even Tommy Egan. For the first time in a long time, Tommy feels something unexpected. Not anger, not ego, but interest. Because men like Che don't appear out of nowhere. They rise because the city lets them. The streets follow them. The money trusts them. And that alone tells Tommy everything he needs to know. He's not just facing another rival. He's facing someone who could change the entire game. And in that moment, Tommy realizes one truth that hits harder than a bullet. This won't be their only meeting. This is just the beginning. The moment stretches longer than it should. Like the room itself is waiting for one of them to break the silence. But neither man moves. Tommy stands firm, his jaw tight, his eyes locked in the kind of stare that has made men crumble in the past. Yet Che remains steady, unbothered, almost as if he planned this exact moment. That kind of control is rare in the streets. It's not something you learn overnight. It's something built from scars, losses, and quiet victories no one saw coming. Tommy slowly drifts his gaze around the room, noticing the small details most people would miss. The layout, the exits, the silent workers moving with discipline. Nothing here is sloppy. Everything has purpose. Even the air feels too clean for a place tied to the game. And the more he observes, the clearer the picture becomes. Che isn't just a part of the streets. He's reshaping them. Not with guns blazing, but with a style of power Chicago has been starving for, a power that speaks softly yet reaches far. This realization irritates Tommy more than he expected. He's spent his life proving himself through force, through fear, through dominance. Yet here stands a man who built his influence without stepping into the light. A man who doesn't need to shout or fight to be heard. And Tommy hates admitting it, but this kind of quiet strength is harder to break than walls of muscle. Finally, Che shifts his weight, just enough for Tommy to notice. It's not a threat, not a challenge, almost like he's signaling the start of a new chapter neither of them fully understands yet. His eyes carry the type of story only the streets can write. A story Tommy recognizes all too well. Someone who has lost enough to know pain, yet survived enough to understand power. That combination makes a man unpredictable. Tommy's instincts kick into overdrive. He can usually smell fear, lies, or desperation. But Che isn't giving him any of that. Instead, he radiates something strange, certainty. A certainty that tells Tommy he prepared for this meeting long before today. And that realization stings because Tommy likes being the one who stays ahead. But this time, he's meeting someone who has already studied the board. The tension starts pressing down harder, like invisible hands tightening around the scene. Tommy knows what this moment really is: not an introduction, not a warning, but a test. Not of strength, but of presence, of will, of who can stand longer without blinking. And Tommy isn't backing down. He can't. His reputation depends on it. Every deal, every war, every body he stepped over brought him to this moment. And the last thing he'll ever show is doubt. But Che doesn't blink either. Not once, and that stillness is louder than a gunshot. It tells Tommy he isn't facing a man eager to prove himself. He's facing a man who already believes he belongs on the top floor of the city. A man who, in another life, could have been a CEO instead of a street king. A man who might be the one person capable of matching Tommy step for step. Tommy's breath settles as he leans in just slightly, as if trying to decode the man in front of him. But Che doesn't flinch. His calm becomes a mirror, forcing Tommy to see his own intensity reflected back. And in that quiet reflection, Tommy finally understands the danger. You can fight a loud enemy. You can crush someone who wants to rise too fast. But a man like Che, a man who moves with patience and precision, that's the kind of enemy who waits for the perfect moment to strike. For the first time, the calm begins to crack, not because of fear, but because the truth is now undeniable. Chicago isn't big enough for two men who want control on their own terms. Sooner or later, the city will force them into one of two paths, building together or bleeding against each other. And somewhere deep inside, Tommy feels a shift, not of fear, not of anger, but of recognition, because he's not meeting a follower. He's meeting a rival destiny. The air settles into a heavy stillness, the kind that doesn't feel accidental. It feels like the moment before something breaks quiet but sharp, like both men can sense something shifting under their feet. Tommy stands his ground with that signature fire in his eyes, the kind that has pushed him through every bloody chapter of his life. But today the fire burns differently. It's not blind rage or fast ambition. It's something slower, deeper, like his instincts are telling him to read this moment before acting. Che mirrors that stillness with a controlled calm that almost feels unnatural in the world they live in. He looks at Tommy not as a threat to fear, but as a force to understand. And that alone creates a tension thicker than bullets ever could. Because Tommy is used to people reacting the moment he steps in, used to them folding, shaking, talking too fast, or biting off more than they can chew. But Che doesn't do any of that. He just watches, steady and unshaken, like he's weighing the city itself in his mind. That's when Tommy realizes something important. Che isn't just running a corner or a block. He's running a blueprint, a vision. A map of the future he wants to build in. Tommy has walked right into the center of it. A man with vision is dangerous. Not because he's unpredictable, but because he's patient. Because he's willing to wait for the right moment. Or create it. The silence stretches until it feels like the whole building is holding its breath. Tommy finally shifts only a small step, but enough to cut through the heavy air. And even that small move sends a signal he's not backing down, not softening, not folding into whatever calm Che is trying to project. But he's also not rushing into violence, not yet. Because even Tommy knows this moment is bigger than ego, bigger than pride. This moment is about territory, yes, but also about potential, danger, and balance. Che's eyes narrow just a touch, not in anger, but in recognition. He understands the weight of what's happening. Two forces meeting at a point where one wrong move could flip the entire landscape of Chicago. It's like watching two storms collide, both powerful in their own ways, both capable of leveling anything in their path. And yet neither one is ready to strike first. Tommy senses the possibility hiding inside the tension. The streets could change because of this one conversation, whether it turns into a handshake or a battlefield. That's the dangerous beauty of moments like this. They don't look dramatic from the outside. No shouting, no guns, no threats. But inside, everything is shifting. He studies Chi again. The posture, the control, the confidence. And for the first time, Tommy sees something he didn't notice before, a familiar spark buried deep under the calm. A spark he has seen in his own reflection. Hunger, not the hunger for chaos, but for power. Real power. The kind that outlives fear. The kind that reshapes cities. Tommy knows exactly what that kind of hunger can lead to. It can build empires. It can destroy them. Sometimes both at the same time. Chi finally takes a breath, slow and measured, like he's choosing from a dozen different paths and hasn't decided which one fits Tommy's presence best. And Tommy waits, knowing he's forcing Chi to reveal something, maybe not a weakness, but a direction. A hint of what kind of man he really is. When Chi finally speaks, the room doesn't relax. Instead, the walls seem to tighten, as if the building itself understands that the words about to drop will echo long after the moment ends. And though the exact words don't matter here, the impact does. It's not a welcome, not a warning, not a threat. It's something far more dangerous. It's acknowledgement. Because the moment Chi treats Tommy as an equal, everything changes. The rivalry becomes sharper. The respect becomes heavier. The possibilities become explosive. Tommy feels the edge of a choice forming inside him. This new player could be a partner who changes the whole game, or a rival who forces Tommy into the kind of war that leaves bodies instead of victories. Two men, two futures, one city hanging between them. And as the tension finally breaks, Tommy understands one truth with chilling clarity. Whoever comes next, Chicago won't forget this moment, because this is the start of something big, either a powerful alliance or the bloodiest war the city has ever seen. The moment fades, but the tension does not. Even after Tommy and Chi step away from that heavy stare down, the air feels marked by something that can't be undone. It's like the room still carries the echo of two destinies brushing against each other for the first time. There were no threats, no gun pulls, no shouts, yet somehow the atmosphere feels more dangerous than if bullets had flown. Because words can be ignored, but energy like that stays, it hangs, it grows. Tommy walks a few steps, taking in every detail he couldn't focus on while staring Chi down. Now he sees the place through a different lens. The walls feel less like a building and more like a territory molded by a single mind. Every piece of furniture, every move from the workers, every quiet glance exchanged behind Che's back, it all fits together like gears in a machine that wasn't built fast, but built right. That tells Tommy everything he needs to know. Chi isn't rushing power. He's building a system. And systems last longer than muscle. It hits Tommy harder than he wants to admit. He's used to running empires by force, by fear, by hitting first and figuring out the rest later. But Chi, he's playing a slower game, a smarter one. Tommy knows this type. Men who stay quiet while the world underestimates them, until the world suddenly realizes they're running everything. That kind of rise is harder to see coming and harder to stop once it starts. Tommy's footsteps echo as he moves, but his thoughts are louder. He's replaying every small detail from their encounter, the controlled breathing, the unshaken posture, the kind of calm only a man with a strong plan carries. And something inside Tommy tightens, not in fear, but in anticipation. Chi is not a typical rival. He's not a loud gangster trying to prove something. He's not a corner kid desperate for attention. He's a thinker. And thinkers change the rules. What makes it even more intense is how the city itself feels like it's shifting between them. Chicago has always been chaotic, unpredictable, hungry. Everyone wants a piece, but nobody can ever hold it fully. Yet now Tommy feels the city reacting to different energies rising from two opposite worlds, slowly closing in on each other. The kind of tension that doesn't stay quiet for long. The kind that forces the streets to pick a side. And the streets never stay neutral. Tommy pauses near a cracked window, looking out at the city lights. Chicago glows in a way that feels both familiar and foreign. He sees the potential, the danger, the opportunities. But for the first time, he also sees the possibility of a future where someone else isn't just competing with him, they're matching him. He's never minded enemies. He's buried enough of them to stop counting. But a rival with vision, a rival with discipline, a rival who understands power the way he does, that's different. That's personal. That's the kind of rival who can either become a strong ally or the reason two cities' worth of blood spills into the gutters. Tommy's mind keeps circling back to Che's eyes. Not scared, not reckless, just certain. Like a man who is already prepared for every outcome, win or lose. And Tommy respects that, even if he won't say it out loud. Respect in their world is rare, dangerous, because respect means you see someone as worthy. And when you see someone as worthy, you either join forces with them or you eliminate them before they become a threat. A slow, burning realization sinks into Tommy's chest. Whatever Che decides next will shape everything, the future of their territory, the balance of the game, the quiet war happening under Chicago's skin. And Tommy knows he'll have to answer with equal force, equal presence, equal strategy. Because ignoring Che now would be like ignoring a storm.